was the most environmentally conscious member of the New York State Senate in 2011. Now, when we say he was the most consistent, the most environmentally conscious, it's because, according to the Environmental Advocates Preliminary Scorecard, they track legislators to see how they vote on bills that affect New York's environment. And Jose Serrano had a perfect score of 67 out of 67 that he voted in favor of. So that makes him the most environmentally conscious member of the New York State Senate in 2011. And for his efforts, not just this year, but in previous years, and what he's doing, we award the New York State Senate Green Advocate Award to Jose M. Serrano.
Vamos, luego.
De frente, por favor. One time right here.
Thank you.
One right here.
Thank you very much.
I hear someone.
The microphone. Thank you very much. This is a tremendous honor, and I want to thank Alfredo and all of the members of the Federation for bestowing this honor upon me. I was actually very surprised. I really didn't know that people were so tuned in to the environmental issues that are affecting Albany, that are affecting legislation there, and that are directly impacting our community. Before I begin, I want to thank the Assemblywoman, Naomi Rivera, for her remarks, and I want to say how great it was to sit next to Adolfo Carrion. I haven't seen him in a while, but he and I got elected at a very difficult time. He was elected as I was on 9/11, around 9/11. He was to become the borough president and I to the city council. And he took leadership at a very difficult time. And he did a great job building upon many of the gains that Fernando Ferrer had done over 14 years in the Bronx. And Adolfo built upon those. And one of the things that he always said, which I felt was very important to everyone in this room as well as important throughout the Bronx and throughout the city, is that the most important social program is a job. And the employment that you bring to the community, the work that all of you do as small business people, it is really what has turned our community around. I live in the South Bronx. I was born in the South Bronx in 1972, and it is a dramatically different place now than it was back in the 70s when I was born, when there was no investment in the Bronx, when small businesses couldn't thrive, when housing was non-existent. But it was many people here in this room that didn't turn their back on the South Bronx, that didn't turn their back on East Harlem, where I also represent. That we see now this, over the last 15, 20 years, this renaissance, not only on the job side, but on housing, on education, and in the sort of motivation that many of us feel to really turn our community around. Now, issues affecting the environment are of critical importance to our community. I represent, as I mentioned before, East Harlem, but I also represent Yorkville and Roosevelt Island and the South Bronx and the West Bronx. And we have some of the highest preventable diseases, the highest rates of preventable disease that you'll find anywhere. Unfortunately, asthma, diabetes, cancer, and many of these ailments are linked directly to environmental triggers, to lack of access to viable green space, and lack of access to healthy foods. One of the things that has become so important to my work in the New York State Senate has been shining a very strong spotlight on the environment because we need it the most. Oftentimes you hear people say, well, the environmental issues, I think, those are not necessarily in the city. We're talking about the watershed. We're talking about air pollution in other places upstate. We're talking about water quality. But unfortunately, the South Bronx, East Harlem is ground zero to the toxic effects that pollution and that substandard environmental policies and lack of environmental justice have had in our community. And it's so encouraging to know that the Latino community, as the largest growing, as the former borough president mentioned, the largest growing population in the nation, that you are at the forefront in not only creating jobs and creating small businesses for our community, but creating them in a way that will create sustainability. Not just looking for a dollar, not just looking to create business, but to create business the right way, to find ways to incorporate green technology. And it is the smartest thing, because these are the businesses, these are the technologies that will transcend all of the technology that is currently there now and that is currently outdated. So I think it is of critical importance that the Latino community, being that we are at the forefront of so many things, that we are also at the forefront of green technology, and that we are the ones that are saying, we are going to take ownership of our community, we are going to ensure that our communities, generations have a clean environment, and it is so, again, inspiring to have this award because it shows that it is of critical importance to this federation, to the Hispanic Federation, the Chambers of Commerce, that we have this technology and that we embrace the legislation. You know, you mentioned in introducing me the scorecard of the environmental advocates. I really had no idea that I had been voting sort of based on the scorecard. These were bills that were coming before us that, to me, were of critical common sense. Everyone wants clean air. Everyone wants clean water. Everyone wants to cut back on diesel emissions. But what's so unfortunate is that there is such a strong lobby on the other side of the issue that doesn't want regulation, that doesn't want to hear about any impediments to their industries, which they're making a lot of money doing. But I say it is better for business to have clean technology. And I think they are not mutually exclusive, and that's why I'm so grateful for this award. Thank you.
Video ones. Thank you.
All right, now before we go to our last two awards, I would like to go ahead and make the audience aware that we have the Executive Director of Somos El Futuro with us here tonight, Tony Martinez. And we also have Charito Cisneros, which is the President of the New York State Cosmetology and Beauty Chamber of Commerce.